Hello. Hope everyone's doing really great this evening. It's a little later. Oh, we're at 10. That's okay. But hope everyone's doing really great. I am going to be discussing today, and I think we're in video 5, when to plant. So I covered some other things in the previous videos. If you haven't checked those out, get a chance to, because I discuss a couple things like why you would want to have a garden, some benefits, and some great outcomes as far as having a garden, who it can benefit. There's so many benefits to having a garden. Hopefully that can help inspire and encourage you to really start your garden this year. And then I discussed where to plant your garden, so some kind of different location options for you. And then I also discussed how to decide what to plant in your garden. And in this video, I'm going to discuss how to decide when to plant. So there's a couple things when you're planting your garden. So we talked about, hold on one second, all right, so we discussed how, what to plant. So once you, in the last videos, and we kind of went over how to decide what fruits and vegetables you want to use, basically kind of deciding and thinking about like what you eat the most and what is the most expensive, or what you don't eat. That's also important to decide, because it's so easy to go overboard. And so what I recommend, watch that video about how to kind of weed out what you're going to plant. So sorry, I kind of got out of what I was looking at. But so as far as when to plant, what I usually do is I figure out how to, first of all, you want to know your growing, sorry, you want to know your growing zone. So the best way to do that, so basically the country is broken into different growing zones, basically by climate, and it's kind of broken down by your average frost temperatures, by certain dates, and your freeze date, and your last freeze date, and your first freeze date, and all those kinds of things. And that's what your freeze date is determined. So I'm sitting where I live right on what's called 6A, which is kind of 6A, 6B. So that allows me to be able to do some research as far as what plants will grow the best in my growing zone. They also call them like hardiness zones, if you're like looking it up, Googling it that way. I have found that the best place to find your growing zone is at the Burpee website. So go to burpee.com, and then up on top, you can find your growing zone. Put in your zip code and you can find your growing zone. So know that. And what that will do will give you an idea of the plants and the fruits and vegetables and herbs that do best in that climate. What you also want to do is you want to know your freeze dates. And most important right now going into spring is your last freeze date. So what that means, that's the last date that you estimated can expect to have freezing temperatures overnight. And for us, where I'm at, it's sitting at April 28th. So we still got 2 months pretty much before our last freeze date. And that's important because you don't want to put anything that is not frost tolerant into the ground at all before that date. You're going to hit these days where it's warm, it's starting to get warmer and warmer, but you're still overnight having the possibility to have freezes that will kill what you put in the ground. So you want to keep an eye open that. And I tend to like to even go a week out past the last freeze date, and really keep an eye on those evening temperatures, so that you're not running the risk of putting in all your tomato plants that you've spent weeks trying to nurture from a seed, and you put them in the ground, and then all of a sudden you're going to have some freezing temperatures overnight, and you either have to scramble to find some ways to cover them, or dig them back up, or save them in some way. So that's what you really, number one thing, your last freeze date. So like I said, ours is April 28th. And then what you're going to want to do is, from those fruits and vegetables that you've decided, you want to get some seed packets. Now you can either do it from seed, or you can do it from a plant from the nursery. So I have seed packets. We are really trying to do seeds. What I like to do is I like to try to do seeds, and sometimes I've had plants grow from seeds before, but I like to do the seeds. And then worst case, if like they're a bust, the seeds don't germinate, or I just have a rough time with them, then sorry, I don't know what that noise was. And then I will grab a plant from the store if I have to. So I'm trying to do more seeds for sure. But transplants are fine if you can find them as well. So what I have here in this bag is these are actually going into my one bed. These are like my root vegetables, my more frost tolerant vegetables. So I have some radishes and an onion that I'm going to do, and some beets and carrots. And all of these I can do into the ground. Sorry, I was just reading. So these, let's say, let me just, where was the one? So early spring, so like these beets, for example, prefer a cool climate and can tolerate mild frost. So that means I can put them in sometime before in early spring, right? As soon as the soil can be worked, I can put these in. They're going to tolerate some frost. In addition to that, they're not going to like do very well in the heat, so you don't want to put them necessarily, start them in the heat. And then let's see so I got some beets, got some carrots. So what you want to do is once you get your packets, so here I'll show you. I have a beet packet. Can you see this? Is it backwards? It's not. That's very nice. Okay, so a couple things on seed packet, right? So you're going to, this is a beet, an early wonder beet. What you can see is you start beets. It's going to give you directions. So it's going to say start beets outdoors in loose, well-drained soil in early spring as soon as soil can be worked, and up to 6 weeks before fall frost. So that means that you can do it as soon, early spring, as soon as like the ground is not frozen, you can start getting them in there. So then I get out my calendar, right? This is just a free, like I think I was sent this in the mail. So I just got that, and I'll go to April, and I put in my last frost. You guys see this? My last frost date. And then I will mark in there that I want to do beans, carrots, and all this stuff in the ground at that point. And then what you also want to do, because these are root vegetables, you want to try and take a look at this, and you want to say that it's going to sprout in about 5 to 10 days. So maybe mark that on your calendar to kind of look at that, so you have an idea of, so you're not like juggling these seed packets anywhere. It's just your calendar is going to be like your best friend with the gardening. So you can kind of keep an eye on that to make sure that they are germinating and doing well. And then maturing in 25 days, right? So in 25 days, you should be able to, oh, this is a radish, sorry. I also said beets are much longer than 25 days. Beets are like double that, 55 days. Radishes are really quick. And the thing with radishes are you can pop them in and sequence them. So put some in, a week later put more in, and then you're harvesting them. They're ready at different times. You know, you see you're as you're harvesting them like every week after that. So so maturity would be 25 days. So I would mark all of that on the calendar. So these beets or root vegetables are typically, like I said, I mean, think about it. When you are root vegetables are typically more of like you use them in your winter stews and stuff. So they're a lot more frost tolerant. And then you have things like your tomatoes. These are going to be in this whole bag is going to be in my raised bed. So I have tomatoes. I have beans, some string beans. Oh, I didn't bring up my other one. That's okay. I have peas. So peas, these are actually frosty peas, and they like cool weather. They don't do well in the heat, like the hot heat. So this says to plant in early spring, and they will tolerate a light frost. So I'm going to plant them right around the freeze date as well. And then tomatoes, let's see these tomatoes here. Is it open? Okay, these are start seeds typically 6 to 8 weeks before your last spring frost.
and then put outside once after the nights have warmed. So wait to put them in the ground till they've actually the nights are warm. So after you've really any chance of an evening freeze is, past. So that's so then what I would do is I would get out my calendar and go to that last frost freeze, which for me is April 28th. And then I would count back 6 to 8 weeks, which I've already done this on my calendar. Where is it? That's going to be right around March 13th, March 6th, March 13th. That weekend, I'm going to be starting my seeds indoors. I got my tomatoes, my peppers. I'm also doing my broccoli, my Brussels sprouts, my cabbage. I'm going to start them all as seeds that time. That's going to give me 6 to 8 weeks until my last freeze. They should be good and sprouted by then and be ready to be transplanted into the ground. So that is how I schedule. So after you've done the other 2 videos, you've kind of figure out your locations and you figured out what you're going to plant, and you've either gotten your seeds, if you're doing it by seeds, then, the seed packages, like I said, will tell you everything you need to know. So these are pole bean, Kentucky bean. They it says plant in well-drained soil in late spring. Optimal soil temperature for germination is 75 to 95, and beans do not tolerate frost, so you do not want to put these into the ground before. This would even serve you better to put these directly into the ground once you're doing maybe your tomatoes after the ground has warmed up, after the nights have warmed up. These don't tolerate frost, so you don't want it to be nice and warm. So you have to kind of understand your frost tolerant peppers as well. So here's a jalapeno pepper. These are, again, start your seeds indoors 8 to 10 weeks before last frost. So these would probably start these maybe a week before I start the other ones, although those are at 8 weeks. So I'm just going to go ahead and start these at the same time. Tomatoes and peppers it's going to be a seed starting weekend on the 13th. And then we'll get them in the ground once everything has warmed up. All right, and then again on the back, it tells you sprouts in 10 to 20 days. I like to mark that on my calendar so that I just have an idea in my head, so I'm not like, when are these going to sprout? I can't remember, how it's sprouting for all these, but luckily the seed packets are really nice. And then matures in 65 days, so I'll mark that at this time, these jalapeno peppers should be pretty good. Now, he says green peppers will turn red if left on the vine, which is perfectly fine. And big tip, do I have any sweet peppers here? Don't put your sweet peppers near your hot peppers because they'll cross-pollinate and your hot peppers won't be as hot. So try and keep them far away. Don't put them in the same bed. Don't put them right next to each other. If you don't have a lot of areas, try and get a bush pea. If you can, I think this is a bush pea. I have one that's a bush. So you don't have to worry about vining, or if you want to vine, you can do that in small places as well, because you can do vertical. So let me know if you guys have any questions. That's just, I'm telling you the method of how I do it as far as when. Your last freeze date is really, really, really important. And kind of subtract before or after in order to find when you should be starting your seeds. It's usually 6 to 8 weeks before your last freeze date in order to get them in. Now, of course, you can put them in later, but in order to get the most out of your growing season, that's what I recommend. So if you have any specific questions about anything like that, please go ahead and just pop them in the comments and I'll respond. And also, if you're interested in this, but you want someone holding your hand and you really want some guidance and support and accountability, please hop on a call with me. I'm going to put the sign up link in the comments. Just pick a date, pick a time, sign up. Let's have a call. Let's figure out what your garden will look like this year. We can talk about your specific situation, what your goals and your hopes are for your garden, and we can sort through all of that. So pop that, sign up for that, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.